Okay, this is the third screencast for human population growth, and here we're going to be looking at age structure diagrams. An age structure diagram is a visual representation of the age structure within a country and also further divides it into males and females. So how the population's age structure affects its growth or decline will also be examined. So we have 4 sample countries here, beginning with India, the United States, then Germany, and China. So India's population size in millions, on the left side of the graph are the males, and the right side of the graph are females. And you see the age range from 0 to about 100 here. Now, notice there are 3 different colors, the light green, medium, and dark green. The dark green represents children under the age of 14 and therefore not considered in the reproductive age bracket. The medium green goes from about 15 up to about 45 here, and those would be individuals in the reproductive range. And then above that, non-reproductive. So you can see that the shape of this curve, or this diagram, the structure, is a pyramid, meaning it's wide at the base and narrow as it goes up. So that would be a pyramid shape. And whenever you have a population where it has a very wide base, that means that in the coming years, the individuals who make up this wide base are going to be moving into their reproductive years, and therefore the population is going to continue to grow quite exponentially. Now over here we have the population of the United States in millions. Again, males on the left, females on the right. Again, the 3 age groups, pre-reproductive, reproductive, and post. And you can see that the shape of this diagram is closer to what I would call a house with a roof, so narrowing as you get to the post-reproductive years, and pretty steady between the pre-reproductive and reproductive years. So here the population would be expected to continue to grow, but not at an exponential rate. It would just be a slight increase in population as these individuals who are in the pre-reproductive years move in. So it would be more akin to a replacement. This population in the bottom left corner is Germany, and I would describe that shape as like a top, a spinning top. So it's widest here in the middle. It narrows again as it moves toward the top, and it's actually narrowing as it moves down even less into the pre-reproductive years. So a population with that type of age structure diagram would be one where the population is declining because there are fewer individuals who will be moving into the reproductive years as the next few years unfold. And then you have another type of population here. This representation is for China. So still the post-reproductive years always are narrowing down, much like ours is. You can see a fairly wide portion in the reproductive years, and then a definite narrowing as you go into the pre-reproductive years. So this population will continue to grow for a while, but then the growth rate will decline as the number of individuals in the pre-reproductive years move into the reproductive years. And these age structure diagrams are important as governments look to planning things like food production. They can be important for some countries. Let's take the example of Germany, where they'll actually, as people move into the retirement age instead of the reproductive ages and working ages, then they need and are encouraging immigration, encouraging individuals from other countries to move to their country so that they can have workers, and so that those workers can put input into the retirement systems. It also can, that also as we move into, especially the boomers moving into older populations, there are consequences for Social Security withdrawals, withdrawals of savings, retirement savings, and also the toll that it will take on the healthcare system. So lots of considerations here. Okay, now I'm actually I'll take just a minute on this slide. It's just about migration and the reasons why people move. People move for economic opportunities. People move due to get away from wars or discrimination or persecution. They might move to for religious freedom. There are many reasons people move, but one of the driving forces of immigration is, of course, job opportunities. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today, though. Okay, so this is the heart of this chapter. Human population size and consumption interact together to impact or influence the environment. That's really a bottom line thing here. So you might have a country with a large population size but low consumption, but the large population size is impacting the environment. You might have a country with a medium to even low population size, but a high consumption rate, and that will influence its degree of influence or impact on the environment. So on this slide, we're taking a look at the most populous countries in the world, and you do need to know the top three: China, India, and the United States. And you can see that the United States is only approximately a third of what the other two leading countries are, but because of our consumption rates, we have an impact that's far greater than our numbers would suggest here. So one thing I want to point out on this older slide, this is 2010 data for a 2012 publication. But current numbers for China are now at 1.4 billion. So that has increased just a little bit to about here, but not all that much. The current numbers for India, though, are now at 1.3 billion. So it's moved up all the way to about here. And so the growth rate, the population growth rate in India is much higher than the population growth rate in China. And probably it will be very soon before they go beyond China's in terms of population size. The United States, in the meantime, moved from 307 million up to 330 million, so maybe about here. So we've still had quite a bit of population growth in recent years. Okay, so it's a little pale to see here, but the Census.gov population clock is something that I'd like you to click on and take a look at the different countries, where they stand now, how quickly there are new births, what is the current ratio between births and deaths in various countries and globally. And what you will find is that many of the predictions, you can compare them to the predictions here as to how large the population will grow and over time. Okay, and that will give you a good sense of it. So the more developed a country becomes, usually the growth rate, population growth rate, will start to decrease. Okay, now we're going to look at the influence or the impact of affluence. Affluence refers to wealth. So we're going to look at an economic term here, gross domestic product. The gross domestic product is all of the products and services produced in a year in a particular country. And often that, so what comprises the GDP? That's consumer spending, investments, government spending, and exports minus imports. generally speaking, the higher the gross domestic product, it could be that pollution levels are higher, but that's not necessarily the case, because sometimes when a country has more money, they can afford to limit the pollution levels. So let's take a minute to look again at ecological footprints and the level of affluence and how the level of affluence affects an ecological footprint. So remember, an ecological footprint is a measure in acres or an area of land of how much it takes to provide for the lifestyle of an individual, a community, or a country. And affluence, which means having a lot of wealth, having a lot of money, goods, and property, which is created by economic opportunity, will also tends to increase an individual country or country's ecological footprint. So let's take a look here at an ecological footprint. This is per capita, which is per person, per head. Think of cap as a head. And this graph is not from your textbook, but your textbook has similar ones. And here it shows in the U.S. it takes 9.0 hectare acres to support our lifestyles. That's generally 2.2 or roughly 20 acres of U.S. acres to support our lifestyle. That's to grow food, to grow timber, to do mining, provide energy. All of these factors take land. And you can see that there's a general tendency that countries that are more ecologically developed have a higher ecological footprint. So Germany through the United States here have higher footprints. And as we go to more developing countries like China, India, Ivory Coast, and Haiti, you see a lower ecological footprint. But let's take a minute just to look at developed countries. And you can see that countries like Japan that certainly have a lifestyle that's very comparable in terms of jobs and economic opportunities, etc., access to health care. And yet they have an ecological footprint that is roughly half of the United States. So we need to see where those improvements can be made. So there's an opportunity for developed countries to lower their ecological footprint, particularly places like the United States. But the other half of the picture that we have to look at, particularly in reference to India and China, is that even though their per capita footprint is low, their total footprint, because they have so many people versus these other countries, that their total footprint becomes quite high. So this graphic here has per capita ecological footprint on the right side, so that's per person. And again, you see the United States here versus places like China and India and other places like the European Union and Japan. But on the left side, it factors in the size of that particular population of a particular country. And that provides something called the total ecological footprint and share of global capacity. So you can see here that because China's population size is very large, their relative portion or their share of global ecological capacity or resources, you might just summarize it as that, increases quite a bit relative to, say, the European Union. It's about the same. And there's less difference here than between the United States and China when you take into the total population size. Okay, that's going to be the end of this screencast, so pick it up on the next one.